Conference will now be recorded.
I could have posted on there.
It's how do you pronounce it? AISH?
AISH. Aish place. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Aish is fire.
Oh,
Aish HaTorah is the name of the
I learned so
organization. The
much.
fire of the Torah. Right? The energy, the fire. Aish.
Do you know you cannot shake the bottle of wine and drink it because it's considered that's how idol worship opens the bottle. That's why you're not allowed to drink wine like that shaped wine.
I never
How
really
do you-
Wait. So there's something called there is yayin stam. Okay, yayin is wine, and a special, because wine was used for elevated, consecrated usage. So if a non-Jew, right,
Yeah.
has moved the bottle while it's open, so there we're concerned it might have been jiggled for the sake of idolatry.
Yeah.
Okay, right? That is why we always use what's called yayin mevushal. If you look on the back of the bottle of wine, when it has the kashrut, it'll always let you know mevushal or not mevushal. Here, this says kosher for Passover,
And
contains
Yeah.
sulfites, mevushal. Take a look over there, underneath
So
over
it's
there.
just if a non-Jew were to touch the bottle?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh,
If it's already open?
if it's already opened, right?
and then non-Jew cannot waiters, non-Jew waiters cannot.
If it's not mevushal,
Yeah.
if it's not mevushal, and that's why a kosher restaurant, right, will have, if they have non-Jewish waiters, the wine they're serving will typically be mevushal,
What
right?
is Nabushal?
Cooked.
Cooked.
Okay, some wines are cooked in the process, and once it's cooked, it was never used for idolatry. Okay, so again, it's an extra layer of kashrut that we have when it comes to wine. Because it's often used for sacrificial usage, and also wine is something that when drinking wine together, there's an added degree of camaraderie, closeness, and which we don't want there to be.
Rabbi, so for example, if we were, like say, example, at your house and you had a bottle of wine, we wouldn't be able to touch that.
I have mevushal in my house.
Oh,
So if it's cooked, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I have another.
And you saw mevushal over there?
and
Right?
what's the other word if it's not meant?
Non-mevushal.
Oh, okay. Then that's the one that at the moment Natalie and I cannot touch.
Right. And
Correct. Once it's opened.
And then I cannot
And what would
see
you
that
say
the
the
wine
typical, like,
become
most kosher wines are they Nabushal or it's like a
kosher
cocktail?
and then
Um,
the bottle of wine become unkosher.
Most, I would say it's a bit of a toss-up.
Okay.
Joe, would you say most kosher wines are mevushal at this point? Yeah. I'm sorry? Okay. Yeah, that play, but there are some very, it's considered a finer wine if it hasn't been cooked. Once it gets cooked, so you lose some of the hints of mahogany and the back of the palate. You might be able to taste some. Oh, this so it means absolutely nothing to me. To me, it's absolutely gibberish, right? But when you the cooked wine is not quite as refined, they say. Okay, that's why it wasn't used for idolatry, and that's why we don't have all the problem. So there's yayin akum, wine of idolaters, that was used for idolatry. Go to India, you'll have some of that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in our world there's yayin stam, and yayin stam is wine that is stam means non-directed in any, right. So we don't think it was, we don't know that it was for idolatry, we don't really think it was, but that was a safeguard that was put in place since wine is used for in the temple. And also we use wine on Shabbos for Kiddush, we use wine for Havdalah, we use wine at a Brit Milah, circumcision, we use wine at Pidyon Ben, we use wine at a wedding. At all consecrated moments we use wine. And therefore there's this added layer of wine. Okay?
They also said hot liquor is, we don't separate it as a kosher, but you have to be careful because some of the hard liquors from Canada have 20 more percent of wine in there.
Okay,
and then
so
that's not
when it
good.
comes
Yeah,
to liquor,
sorry.
so there, the CRC, I'm sorry, you stuck outside, buddy?
Oh,
I just
yeah.
got it.
Okay. You're here now. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to liquor, go to the CRC app, okay? CRC Kosher app. Chicago Rabbinical Council, that's your old stomping grounds. And your peeps. And they've got a whole thing on alcoholic beverages. And they have bar stock items, beer, bourbon, American whiskey, brandy, all these things. And they'll tell you a lot of the things. What they'll say is they'll give the, let's see, Canadian whiskey,
I even get septic.
right? Right. Okay. Canadian whiskey often contains added wine. This wine, assumed to be non-kosher, creates considerable kashrus concerns. Right? This applies even to products labeled 100% rye. Accordingly, Canadian whiskey is recommended only if it is known, could contain only kosher ingredients, or has reliable certification. Okay? And then we'll list all of the, right, those that it does recommend, doesn't recommend. So when it comes to all of these alcoholic beverages, check it out. You have the CRC, you have Star K, right? And they're not always exactly the same. The way I look at it, if either one of them says it's okay, then I rely on it, and the shul relies on it. When the shul is serving wine, cut that back.
Yeah.
You guys saw the you guys saw the mavushal though? That's what I wanted to point out. You guys, all right? Orly, you familiar with that? Yeah. Okay.
Rabbi, is there a particular reason why you guys got the mavashal as opposed to the non-mavashal, or that?
Is there a particular reason why what?
Why you guys went with that one versus the non?
Yes. This is on sale in Costco.
I got like 24 bottles.
But besides that fact, the shul, anything that we have in shul, or when we're giving it out, we like to give out mavushal.
Oh, are these for farm plastic?
Yeah, it's for Purim. Yeah. So but anything that's served in shul is going to be mavushal. Now it's interesting. Kedem grape juice, right? When you get it in the plastic, that is mavushal. If you're getting it in a glass bottle, then typically it's not mavushal. Why would they make not mavushal? Well, let's say for Kiddush, right, in a certain way, or the Pesach Seder, the halacha says you can even use mavushal at the Pesach Seder, right? Which implies what is the preferred way? Non-mavushal. Why? Because non-mavushal is typically a higher quality. You want to use the highest quality for the Pesach Seder. You want to use the highest quality for Kiddush. But when there's going to be halachic concerns, so then we just go with mavushal and play it safe. So anything here in the shul will always be mavushal.
So non-mavashal would be the safest if you're in a Jewish home with just Jewish people.
A non-mavushal, yes. If a person, right now, there are those that say that even a person is Jewish but not fully Shomer Shabbos, also a problem.
Yeah, that's what they talked about.
Yeah.
That person doesn't follow all the
Yeah.
halachas, or
So if theoretically speaking, if Natalie and I would enjoy some wine, which we don't, but if we would enjoy wine, we might think, oh, let's get ourselves this good, fine bottle of wine, and we wouldn't care. We couldn't care less if it's mavushal or not mavushal, right? If it's a better wine when it's not mavushal, we'll get that, right? But yeah.
It depends who's going to pour that wine for you.
But if it's Natalie and I drinking the wine, we're pretty safe.
Okay.
We know each other pretty well, and trust each other's religious level of observance.
I have two questions. One,
Yeah.
So any wine that has a hechsher on it will say the words either mavushal or not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's what I wanted to show you guys on the bottle.
Okay. And then my other question is, so Paz and I are not getting married, but having a party in Israel in May, and they talking about the wine they have, and I don't remember what the word for it is, but like someone that's there. I think that's what I want.
Mashkiach.
Yeah.
The mashkiach is the person who a mashkiach means is an overseer. So in terms of kashrut,
Yeah.
when there's a mashkiach, that means he or she oversees to make sure everything is done properly in terms of kashrut. In yeshiva, a mashkiach is the rabbi who oversees the spiritual development of each of the boys. Mashiach means to oversee.
Okay.
Right? You've heard the term hashgacha pratis. Hashgacha pratis is this personalized, divine overseeing, providence, guiding the things that come to us. All the same word. Hashkiach is to oversee.
Okay. So like what I think in the circumstance was like, they're like, if you want to bring wine in that we don't have, obviously it has to be kosher wine, but then he has to.
He'll have to go through him. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
So interesting.
Sorry, Rabbi.
Okay. Yeah, so aish.com, that's the Aish HaTorah website, has a lot of great material. It has halachic material, it has Jewish history, it has on the Parsha, it has lots of great articles that are just human interest articles, but you could do a search over there, whether it's on on positive, it just a lot of great stuff. Aish, AISH.com. Aish means fire.
$18 per month. That's for cheap. Not free.
Well, there's a
It
lot
depends
that's
for
free.
what.
There's a lot that's free there.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like-
There's a tremendous amount that's free. What are you paying $18 for?
They're taking that.
Is that
class.
dentistry?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tuition is only
I pay like $1,200 for my teeth.
I'm sorry.
It still hurts.
So what are you paying the $18 a month subscription for? For that course?
Yes.
Okay, it could be
Yeah, yeah.
certain courses
Courses, yeah.
have a fee attached to it. Okay, that's reasonable.
You took a cost trip?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's carry on. We've been carrying on, but let's continue. Let's stop carrying on and let's learn. Okay, page 258. Weighing and measuring. Scales and weights may not be used even if one intends to weigh only approximately. Measuring is not permitted on Shabbat. Okay? However, when using a vessel in which measures are marked, like a measuring cup, one should not fill it to the exact measure, but should fill it a little more or a little less. Okay? Which means I can't measure, but let's say I just need to, put some water into a container, and the easiest thing to grab is a measuring cup. Then I'm not measuring. I'm using that just as a cup to fill up, and that will be fine. However, measuring in a bottle for a baby is permitted. Okay.
How old
Why?
the baby's gonna be?
I'm sorry?
How old the baby's
I'm
gonna be?
assuming for baby formula.
Yeah. The baby or the baby's having a bottle. Why would that be okay?
Because those are the directions on the formula, like exactly the measurement.
Okay. So let's finish this. We'll go to the next page and we'll double back to this. Right? Remember we discussed that asking a non-Jew to do something for you on Shabbos is problematic, right? If it is removing a nuisance, turning off the light, turning off the alarm, that's okay, because they are not getting benefit from their action. They have removed the nuisance. Turning on the light, that's going to be a problem, because now I'm getting benefit from that which they did for me. Okay. However, when it involves a sick person, then we suspend that concern. And when it deals with a child, children have the same din as a chola, have the same status as a person who's sick, right? Meaning that their needs are greater, right? And therefore, we can take care of the child. So let's see measuring 259 for the purpose of a mitzvah. One may measure for the purpose of a mitzvah. For instance, to determine if a cup contains the requisite revius for kiddush. Revius is a quarter of a lug. It's a certain measurement. It ranges, some opinions say, about 3.5 ounces Others say 5.5 ounces, right? And it's important to say on Pesach to make sure that the cup an adult is using or that they're using for Kiddush has the requisite amount. So if a person wants to measure for that, then one can. One may also measure for the sake of a sick person or a young child. That's our baby bottle in the previous. You can do for a sick person or a young child, since one's efforts to heal him are considered a mitzvah, right? And like we said before, a child has the same status as a person who is sick because of their added needs that we need to tend to, same as a sick person, and therefore it would be allowed for the baby. So he seems to be putting a thermometer in his mouth. So that would be allowed on Shabbos, right? If a person is sick, right? But the assumption is, and here I'm going to date myself, we're dealing with one of those mercury thermometers, right? If you're dealing with a digital thermometer, that obviously cannot be used on Shabbos, okay? Because then the issue is not simply measuring, right? Measuring is a problem because it's something that it's a rabbinic issue. It leads towards business. So it's like a business, or it leads towards things which lead towards business. And therefore, there is wiggle room on that. And therefore, a sick person or a child, it's all okay. Okay? But it will not, so therefore you can measure someone's temperature, but not in a way that involves electrical appliances that is, bona fide a problem of Chilul Shabbos. Okay?
Rabbi, does an elderly person have the same status as a child?
Not automatically. But if the person is a chola, then certainly that person would, right? But not automatically. Okay? Okay, I think I skipped the bottom diamond on 258. One may not measure even inaccurately with a vessel, which is specifically for the purpose of measuring, such as a measuring cup. Okay? That one can't do. But what I said before, I still stand by. If I'm not measuring at all, I'm just using this as a way of filling up a pitcher, right? Then I'm not measuring at all. I'm just using it as a cup. It happens to be a measuring cup. I'm not doing any measuring, accurate or inaccurate with it.
Would that then be this, it would be like, if you know that this is normally, you know that this is like an 8-ounce cup, you wouldn't use that to measure anything, right? Even though it's not a measuring cup, like it's just.
So if I'm doing it inaccurately, right? If I'm right,
I mean, like,
I need 8 ounces,
uh-huh.
and if I'm using this
I
cup,
need 16 ounces, so I'm gonna use this cup twice, because I know it's 8, that would be.
okay. I'm not sure, because there again, you're filling it up and pouring. You're not. It's not a measuring cup, and you're not measuring exactly to this point. Well, that's interesting. When I use my soda stream on Shabbos, so we fill up the bottle to a certain measure, like there's a certain line there to fill it up to that.
If you don't fill that up, the soda machine will not make the soda though, because they have a regulation.
Right. But the question is, I don't know, is that considered, it's not a measuring cup, and just some filling it up. Yeah. Don't tell anybody.
Now you can't use the.
Busted.
The non-line.
Namavushal. I don't know if that's a problem, right? It's not a measuring cup, right? I'm filling it up to a certain point, and certainly, right? If you do a little more, a little less, then you'll be okay. Okay, and still have non-negotiable wine. Okay, 260, building and demolishing. Hello, Esty. On Shabbos, it is prohibited to engage in any activity connected with building. This includes digging, leveling the ground, pouring concrete, putting up walls, driving nails, drilling holes, installing doors and windows. Making a vessel or preparing one is similarly not permitted. Okay. See Malach of building, Malach of 34. Okay. Demolishing buildings, pulling out nails, likewise prohibited on Shabbos. One may not remove doors or windows from their hinges on Shabbos. If they came off or were removed, they may not be reattached. Similarly, door or window handles may not be removed or attached. A partition or covering which may not be made on Shabbos may also not be taken apart or pulled down on Shabbos. Okay, all of this is not so relevant to us. Okay, right? The only thing, yeah,
You're too fancy. You don't live.
we're not,
We're more like not construction workers.
You're too
Yes.
posh.
Yeah. Again, these are not the things that really come up in our weekly Shabbos observance.
And most
Right.
likely us, we wouldn't be doing this.
Okay,
Now I want to.
let's say the lens comes out of one's glasses. Right? Can one put the lens back into one's glasses?
I would say yes.
Is that considered like you are making a vessel over there, right, or not?
Did you have to use the screw to put it back in?
So when lens pop out, you usually don't need to use a screw to put it back in, right? Right. So basically, if it is a non-artisan work, I mean, if you need an optometrist to do it, so then that would be problematic. If it pops out and the person's able to pop it back in until it pops out the next time, right? So then that would not be considered artisan work, and that would be allowed. Contact lens is not a problem. Putting in or out. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Or you can tape that on your forehead, like my father-in-law. One time when I went there, he taped his glasses on the top of his forehead. What happened? This part is like loosened, and he couldn't find anything. He just taped and he went out for eat like that. I was like, oh my god, what happened?
That's an interesting approach.
Yeah.
Okay. Spreading a cover for a roof, a cover that was spread before Shabbos. It is prohibited to spread coverings or erect tents, including coverings which protect one from the sun, rain, mosquitoes. This applies to covers which do not cover, also do not cover a walled area. If the covering is to form a roof and was spread out at least a tefach is 4 inches before Shabbos, one may spread it out to its entire length on Shabbos. Any part of the covering that is rolled up or folded does not qualify for this tefach. Okay, so this does come up when we're dealing with baby strollers and like a rain guard, right? So that one would not put it on Shabbos. If it's on before Shabbos, then it could be spread out or put back. Okay, and this brings us to 262. Beat me to it. The umbrella on Shabbos. So many a fine person, right, does not realize that umbrellas are a problem on Shabbos, even when there is an Eruv, even within the Eruv, right? It is prohibited to erect or unfold a partition on Shabbos if it is needed for halachic reasons. It turns an area into a private domain. Okay. One may not erect a permanent partition. Okay. An umbrella may not be used on Shabbos. A removable hood on a baby carriage should be connected to the carriage before Shabbos. And then I'm not placing it and not building it. I'm just extending that which is there already.
How about you wearing rain jacket?
Rain jackets are fine because that's a coat.
Okay.
Right? I can wear a coat, so I could also choose to wear a coat that will protect me from the rain. Right? The issue over there is it's like you're with the umbrella, right? If it's open before Shabbos. If it's open before Shabbos, it's fine, but you just can't pick it up. So if you want to walk like,
What if if you had a stroller that you had, and they had their own little thing, but you already had an umbrella like attached to the stroller, So you're not technically carrying the umbrella, you're pushing the stroller,
That is
but it's there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Take that, Rabbi. What about that?
Yeah, the other part of that is, do you need to have a child in this stroller for that to be?
Be creative, right?
So I think,
Like what happened? Like Rabbi Senior said it's okay.
And Rabbi, you can also push a stroller too and use that umbrella if it's allowable.
right, within the Eruv we're talking
Yeah.
about. Within Eruv. That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question.
Push it, son.
See, the problem might be that
Because you're benefiting from it in the way, like
I'm allowed to benefit if it's not considered I made an ohel. The ohel is the tent covering. It's not considered that I made an ohel. I'm allowed to benefit. There's nothing more in benefiting on Shabbos. The question is this be considered malacha or not? Right? So the fact that it's a moving ohel, so is the case of the stroller, right? And that does not seem to be an issue.
I think we perhaps have not seen that happen because I don't think there's any moms that are like, let's go out for a walk with my
yeah,
kids.
because
In
if
the
it's
rain.
rain, they don't go out.
In the rain.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not sure. Let me poke around about that.
Something I could sell at the.
There you go.
There are a lot of, we have the Shabbos lamp, we have a lot of these Shabbos accessories. Yeah, interesting. Okay, writing and drawing. Okay, 265, 263, right? Miscellaneous work, let's see. Right, we can't write on Shabbos, 265. This includes drawing, painting, sketching, stamping, or engraving. Writing is forbidden on any material, even on sand, dust, vapor on windows, spilled liquids on a table. Okay, all of that would be considered to be writing. This comes up, 266. Erasing and breaking letters on food. Erasing any kind of writing is prohibited on Shabbos. Wax, grease, similar substance dripped on written letters. One may not scrape it off on Shabbos. One may not break or cut, whether by hand or instrument, the edible letters and words on cakes or other foods. Okay, so this is the classic issue of the birthday cake. Okay, that they wrote on it, "Happy birthday, Bob," right? So that creates problems on Shabbos when you want to cut that cake, because you'll be breaking or cutting letters and words by doing that, okay? So what they typically do now is the kosher bakeries, they'll write it on a big piece of chocolate, the big piece of chocolate comes off, and then the cake can be cut.
And how about
Okay.
chocolate? Or it's okay to.
Oh, so let's see the next thing. The Mishnah Berurah, however, permits cutting of food onto which letters were raised or pressed, as long as the letters are not from another substance. The Chazon Ish rules stringently in this case and prohibits this. We follow the Mishnah Berurah. So that is those crackers that he's got, right? So the little boy, the cake he's eating, mazel tov on the cake, problematic. The biscuits that he's eating, those crackers that he's eating, that engraved, or so you buy a Hershey's bar, it'll say Hershey's on it. That's not another. Writing is one material on top of another, right? In this case, where that's not right, there's not one material. It is simply it's the same substance. So there we are not concerned. We follow the Mishnah Berurah and not the Chazon Ish's stringent ruling. The Chazon Ish was a great rabbi in Bnei Brak, and he had many stringencies, and people in Bnei Brak, that's a very religious neighborhood of Tel Aviv, so there they mostly follow the Chazon Ish's rulings, okay? The Chazon Ish's rulings include not using public utilities in Israel on Shabbos, not using the electricity, not using the running water. Why is that? because these things, especially electricity, is constantly being monitored and adjusted according to the flow and the need by Jewish people. So therefore, you're getting hana'ah, you're getting benefit from a Jew who is breaking Shabbos, right? You can't get hana'ah from a Jew that is breaking Shabbos, okay? That's why he rules. Now, the heter, why the general populace, religious populace in Israel does use electricity, is that it is pikuach nefesh. It's saving lives, meaning the hospitals, right? The hospitals need electricity to keep people alive over there. And therefore, once the light was turned on for a chola, for a person who's sick, anyone can get benefit from it, right? The light was turned on because of a person sick. Anyone else could come into the room and could utilize that light. So the heter, the reason why most hold it is permitted is because hospitals pikuach nefesh. The response to that from the Chazanishnikers is that most of the hospitals now have their own generators. So it's not pikuach nefesh anymore. Okay, but that goes on in Israel. Yeah, and if you go to if you spend a Shabbos in Bnei Brak by a real Chazon Ishniker's house, right, they won't flush the toilet. They'll have a big bucket there, and you do your own like kind of manual flush. Yeah, again, that is not, I would say, the normative. Something that's in America, it's not an issue, right? In a non-Jewish country, it's not an issue. Let the utility company do whatever they need to do, and it's not going to be an issue. Okay, pasting, molding, sculpting, 267. We don't paste, sculpt, mold with clay, Play-Doh, or any other material. Okay, kids playing with Play-Doh, we won't make such a big deal out of it. Adults should not. Sewing, tightening threads in woolen garments. Okay, 268. It is prohibited to sew, tighten a loose thread on a garment or open up a seam. That goes into the prohibition, right? We had the whole sidura, the whole seder of making garments. And one of the last things was the sewing. A string or thread inserted in a collar or sleeve may not be pulled tight, right? Since this resembles sewing. This kind of tie is commonly found in knitted garments, baby clothing, and hats. Only if the holes are wide and a border is sewn around them is one permitted to tighten an inserted string. What's he talking about here?
Like a blue string.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How about, I don't know about women's suits, but man's suits, the pockets are sewn, when you buy it, the pockets are sewn closed. Can you take that out? No, you can't, right? That would be de-sewing, right? And also that would be metaking kli. That would be bringing this to its full usage. Cutting papers and pages, separating pages which are stuck together, only not cut material paper or tear toilet paper off of a roll, okay? That is why in the Shabbat observant home, one has a box of tissues there. In Israel, they actually sell cut toilet paper, right? That they use there, right? In America, they don't, right? But have a box of tissues. And when you have a box of tissues, there are some tissues that are just slightly connected to the, and then you pull it, that way it pulls it out, but then breaks off. That's a problem, right? You need to have like the box tissue that we have over here, that either they're folded into one another, or they're just resting on top of one another, and they don't pull the other one out, but they are not attached. If a person is in a dire situation, and one has used the facilities at someone's house, and there are no tissues that are cut there, right? So there, because what we call of kavod habriut, which is human dignity, right? So therefore, one would be able to use the toilet paper there, right, in as minimal a manner as possible, right? And one would try to do the cutting, the tearing in a in an unusual shinoi manner, right? But one is allowed to take care of their needs, right? It's a good idea going to someone's house. You're not sure where they're at. Maybe to double check, right? Before the point of no return. Okay.
Stepping on as I can someone cut the toilet paper for me.
Yeah. Right.
Or be like,
Or-
jump out of the window.
Right. Or have some tissues in your pocket. Have some tissues in your pocket. Yeah. Yes.
I
Rahel.
had it's interesting, I had a conversation with I think she might be at my school. And, but she doesn't teach there, she's a mom of somebody. I was having a conversation with a few moms. And she had mentioned to one of the moms who's learning more observance. Because I said something about tissue boxes in the bathroom. And then one who was learning, she was like, "Why do you need tissue boxes in the bathroom? Like, what does that mean?" And we're like, "Well, you don't use the roll of toilet paper." She's like, "What do you mean?" And so, but the other woman who is, I think she's someone who's more observant. She said, "Well, you can use the tissue. You just have to make sure because it's already perforated that it's not really tearing because it was already you're just detaching it." I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I didn't want to argue
Correct.
with her there because
That is not the normative halachic approach. Yeah. On the contrary, it's probably worse if you are in one of those dire situations. It's probably worse to tear it along the perforations because there it's like there you have this whole measuring component also. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It is prohibited by Torah law, Doraita, Torah, to separate the edge of the paper that are not cut in books, journals, and newspapers. You buy a new book, you have a new bench or whatever it is, and sometimes not all the pages are completely separated. There, you're separating them, tearing them would be a serious issue because that's making this into a usable kli, right? Paper materials which were intentionally glued together may not be separated. However, if we're talking about a bencher, right? Everyone know what a bencher is, right? Right? A bencher, right? Natalie, bencher? A bencher is the booklet with the grace after meals. We call those benchers. Benching benching is Yiddish for blessing, right? So that's the bencher, right? Sorry? Yeah, all different colors, whatever they might be. So sometimes those get a little bit sticky, and sometimes the pages got stuck together. So that's not a problem to separate the pages. You're not tearing anything, and you're not turning this into a usable kli. It was a usable book. It got stuck, and you are unsticking it by separating those pages. Tying or untying a knot or a bow, 270. We can't make a knot, a permanent knot on Shabbos, or tighten a knot which became loose. It's permitted to make a bow over a single knot, like when tying shoes, if one intends to open it on the same day that it was made, right? Meaning it's not a permanent knot, and therefore it is not going to be problematic. The tzitzit that he's doing, that is a problem. Why is that a problem? Because you want that to be a permanent knot. So as tempting as it is, if a person sees that their tzitzit or talit strings have gotten loose, as tempting as you are to go and tighten it, not on Shabbos, right? That's why if you have it, right, Remind Paz is he has a Shabbat talit, so when he puts it away after Shabbos to tighten it, and that way we're good for the next week. Okay. Yes.
I can't remember if you addressed this before or not, but like the sticky notes.
Yes. So if you're not doing it in a permanent manner, then it is okay. If you're doing it in a more permanent manner, that would be a problem. Then one should not do that. Yeah. Any knot prohibited to make on Shabbos, also prohibited to be opened. That's always you have the construct and the deconstruct. If the bow of a shoelace became a double knot, one is permitted to open the knot. Now, even though he's not saying this, but I'm going to say this, that if you have kids' shoes that are always getting untied, right? Was that Aaron's blue Croc shoe that was by the?
Today?
No, this is early in the week. I told Lisa about it. She said it might have been Aaron's.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Remember one time he lost some of his shoes on the
Okay,
plane?
so if you have a kid whose shoes are, if tying the double knot is not going to be a permanent knot, that's the only way the kid's shoes are going to stay tied, then that would be okay. Or let's say a person's wearing a robe, right? So what do you do with the robe? You do a single, and then you do a double, right? Right. It's not a permanent knot, right? The robe, it's serving your purposes right now, but it's not going to be permanent, right? You're not going to try to slip out of it, out of the robe, you're going to undo it. So it really depends. Is that going to be a permanent knot? If it is, that's a problem on Shabbos, making it, undoing it. In the case of a non-permanent knot, then it is not going to be problematic.
So a shoelace, that's not a permanent knot.
Correct. So if you need to have a double knot in order to make this a functional shoe, otherwise the kid's shoe is going to keep getting untied, right? Then that would be okay.
So then you can make a knot on shoelaces, you just can't tie them up if they become loose?
I'm sorry? No. The shoelaces are not a problem because the shoes are going on and off, right? It's something that's going to be a permanent knot. Let's say on the tzitzit, on the talus. So that's a permanent knot. You don't want that coming out, right? That you want it to be done in a permanent manner.
How about Velcro shoes?
Not a problem at all. Because Velcro, basically all that's happening is getting in and coming out, right? There's no tearing, there's nothing, there's no tying and there's no tearing. It's not sticking, right? Velcro, it's not sticking. It's getting in between and then being removed. Okay, 271. If a ribbon or string was pulled out of a shoe or a garment on Shabbos, it may be reinserted only if the following conditions are met. It was in the shoe or garment before Shabbos. If it was not in the shoe or garment before Shabbos, then you're putting it in is like making this into a kli. Problematic. It is easy to insert. The end of the string is usually not knotted or sewn after it has been inserted. Okay. One may not insert a string or ribbon into a garment or shoe which previously did not have one, right? Taking it out of the box, problematic, right? Returning, not problematic. Okay, good. Let's plow through over here. Should be able to finish up in a week or two. Good. Climbing or making use of a tree. It's prohibited to climb a tree or use it in any manner. For instance, we're not putting anything on a tree, take anything off it, or even climb a ladder leaning on it. We may not also use anything extending from the tree, such as a stake sticking out from it. Okay? All of this is rabbinic, lest one will break off a branch. Okay? However, one may make use of an object attached to an object which extends from the tree. Okay? For example, one may not put the basket onto that hook, but if there are things in the basket attached to the hook, attached to the tree, then one can utilize that. Or similarly, right? The hammock that little boy looks very happy on over there, right? So the hammock is not attached to the tree. There are pegs attached to the tree, the hammock attached to the pegs. That is allowed. Again, all this is rabbinic, and therefore, if you're 2 steps removed, we will allow it. Touching, leaning on a tree, 276. Only touch a tree as long as it will not cause the tree to move. If the tree is sturdy, right, and will not move if pressure is exerted, the person is permitted to gently lean on it. An exhausted person may not lean on a tree, as this is considered making use of it. Interesting. Okay, so if I'm using my full weight against it, that's considered to be using the tree. If I'm just leaning gently against it, okay, I just stay away from the trees.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
what's the reason, why is it like in particular on a tree? Like
So the issue of a tree is you might come to break off a branch. That's the issue, right? That's why we just don't deal with the trees. Cultivating the soil. All forms of gardening and working the land are prohibited. Plowing, sowing, watering, hoeing, weeding, picking flowers or fruit, spraying, uprooting unwanted grass, moving leaves and branches, covering new seedlings in nurseries, all other labor done in connection with the ground, plant, or trees. Also forbidden to do any of these labors for potted plants. Okay? Potted plants. So you can talk about flowers. Good. We'll come to that in a second. Okay? Now, this can come up sometimes when a person, let's say on Sukkot, if I am eating outside in my sukkah, I want to wash my hands. I should not wash my hands over flowers, grass, anything that's growing from the ground, because basically I'm watering, and that goes into the category. Right, on Shabbos, we had 39 what are called Av Malachot, the Av of the principle. Each one of those has toldot, as the derivatives of it, which are also Torah, meaning planting is anything that's going to help the growth of something. So watering is not one of the 39, but it's not an Av like a father. It is a Tolda, it is a generation, a derivative of that, but that is Min HaTorah, because that is doing the same thing that planting does. Okay. However, moving flower pots, watering flowers. Flower pots standing on the ground may not be moved from one place to another. Why is that? Yes. Well, if it's an earthen pot, then it's considered all contiguous to the ground. It's considered as if it's planted in the ground. So you're picking it up is almost like uprooting it. All right. It is also permitted to take a flower pot which is not on the ground and put it on the ground. Once again, that would be considered to be like planting it. These actions are forbidden because they affect the plant's growth. One may not put flowers and water on Shabbos, nor may one add or change the water in a vase containing flowers. But I can move the flowers that are in a vase on Shabbos. Okay?
You can't put flowers in
You wouldn't put it in on Shabbos because that's going to be helping their growth,
Wow.
right? So before
People
candlelighting,
bring flowers.
sorry?
People like bring flowers.
So, okay, that's good. So really one would not want to bring flowers on Shabbos, right? If one is going for a meal and if you could drop it off before Shabbos, that's fine. If one can't, then one would want to bring something which could be used on Shabbos, like a bottle of wine, right? Sparkling grape juice, something like that. Then it's something that will be used on Shabbos, right? To bring on Shabbos flowers, which then can't really go into the pot, right? So that's a problem. Best not to do that. And also to bring a tray as a gift, right? So if it needs to be toveld, right, immersed in a mikveh the first time of usage, right? So then it can't really be used on Shabbos. So then better not to give that on Shabbos, right?
But it's fine to drop flowers off before Shabbos.
Yeah.
And what should you do if somebody comes to your house and gives you flowers?
You
And
would
Shabbos
say,
already started.
thank you so much. These are beautiful, right? You could put them into a dry vase, or you could put them on the mantle, yeah.
Or maybe you can mention like, I'll put them
Yeah,
Ask the person to put it for you. Well, I cannot.
that's not going to work, right? If you can't do it, they can't do it either.
This
Right.
wouldn't be okay either, right? Like if I'm ever going for like a long drive with flowers, I'll get like a paper towel wet and I'll wrap it up.
It's all the same thing. Yeah, that would be a problem.
Okay.
The long drive on Shabbos is definitely a problem.
Well,
I know.
you know, anything.
I know. Yeah. Lily, what you suggested actually, that might be a gentle teaching moment. You take the flowers, you put them into a dry vase, and say, after Shabbos, these are beautiful. Thank you so much. After Shabbos, I'll be sure to add some water.
It's so
Right.
interesting. One of my non-Jewish coworkers came over for Shabbat, and she actually brought me dried flowers. She had no idea. She's like, there's these flowers. And
Dried
it
flowers.
was literally just like dried, like,
Oh, so you're not supposed to put them in.
no, you don't put them in water. And
Okay.
I was like, oh, thank you so much, but like now I'm telling you.
Yeah. Little did she know. Okay.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Could you move a plant that's inside your house? That's in the house?
Okay.
Can you move it?
Yes. So a
It's not moving towards
plant,
the sun, though, right?
right? A plant, right? So very often someone brings flowers, so we put it on the table. And it's very nice, right? The only problem is once the meal starts, it's like, oh, hi, how you doing over there, right? Right? People can't really have conversation. So then we'll pick up the flowers and move them off to the side, right? The same thing could be done if it is a nice little flower pot that somebody's bringing, right? With soil in there, right? So then I can't put it onto the ground. I can't take it off the ground. I can take it from the table and move it onto a side table, whatever it is. I wouldn't move it to where it's going to be in the sun, right? In order to help its growth, right? But I could, right? Like flowers, I can move that from one place to another. Okay? Fruit which fell from a tree, right? Fruit that fell from a tree may not be moved or eaten on Shabbos. Why is that?
Because you're benefiting from it.
But why is that different than taking it from my fruit drawer? Why is the problem that it fell from the tree on Shabbos? Okay, but it fell on its own. I certainly can't pull it off.
Would it be considered Marit Ayin?
So the issue over here is muktzah, meaning the determining point. Muktzah is something that was removed from the realm of my usage when Shabbat began. When Shabbat began, this was attached to a tree. Therefore, this was muktzah, removed from a realm of usage. Once it's muktzah at the start of Shabbos, it remains muktzah throughout the entire Shabbos. Right? Any fruit found on Shabbos under a tree may not be moved or eaten because of the possibility it became detached on Shabbos. If it is clear that the fruits on the tree fell before Shabbos, they may be picked up and eaten one at a time. They may not be gathered together. It's prohibited to gather fruits on Shabbos. That's one of the processes of making bread, right, is the harvesting and then the gathering together. Eating in the garden, walking on grass. It is best not to eat in the garden on Shabbos because if water is served, it is almost inevitable it will be spilled on the ground, okay? So therefore, right, if you're eating in your back garden on a patio, that will not be an issue, right? If you're eating out on a porch, right, that will not be an issue. The issue is when you're over ground. And I would also say, with kids, it's inevitable to be spilled on the ground, right? If it's two adults eating, I would not say it's inevitable that we're going to spill it on the ground, right? So then one would be able to. It is permitted to walk on grass on Shabbos. However, one should not run or walk quickly on high grass or weeds, since that can tear them, right? Even though it's inadvertent, but what do we call a automatic, unavoidable, albeit, right? Albeit inadvertent action, a pasik resha. Pasik, right? Pasik is to separate, and resha is a head. Okay, that's the pasik resha, right? So therefore, okay, yeah.
So, what about if a picnic? You go sit on the grass and have a picnic blanket.
So on Shabbos, that's depending on who is eating over there, that could be a problem.
Would it be a problem if it's including children? Is that mainly?
So if it is including children, that could prove to be problematic, right? Okay, I know sometimes families here have a get together on Shabbos, a very nice thing to do, right? If you have a waterproof, not a regular blanket, but like a tablecloth type of,
Yeah.
right? So vinyl, one of those, so then that would remove the problem, because even if something does spill, it's not going into the grass.
Is that the only issue? Like water flowing into the grass or possibly pulling grass out?
No, because in the normal course of sitting or walking, you're not pulling out grass. So that would not be an issue. It's certainly eino mitkavein, not your intent, and it's certainly not a psik reisha. Right, that's going to happen automatically. Prohibition on trapping, riding an animal, and riding in a wagon. Trapping animals is not permitted on Shabbos. That goes into riding. That's the order of riding. The first thing in riding is you have to trap the animal to get the hide, right? That was one of our 39 malachot.
That's why you don't allow fishing on Shabbos.
Correct.
But you
This-
can be fish on Sunday.
I'm sorry?
You can go for fishing on Sunday.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Fishing is okay unless you don't do it on Shabbos.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Whereas hunting is not considered to be a Jewish pastime, right? Because you're not going to really be able to eat so it's really you're killing God's creatures for sport, right? Fishing, if one is fishing and planning on eating the fish, so then that is perfectly fine,
How
right?
about hunting the bird and eat that? No.
Well, the only problem is the bird needs to be shechted. So how are you going to hunt it? You could trap it and then shecht it,
What's shafted?
properly slaughter it.
No, it says bird. You can just.
No, not then. Then you can't. No, you can do that and play with the head,
Oh.
but you can't eat it like that.
No,
It's not
You can only play with it.
no. The Torah book that I was reading, it says because the birds steal the food. They don't go and hunt like other animals because they steal the food. That's why the Kohanim does that. That's what I heard.
I think you're confusing something over there. You might mix a couple things up. When an animal sacrifice, the innards go up onto the altar. A bird sacrifice, the innards do not go up onto the altar. The reason given for that is that the bird flies around and eats from other people's fields, and therefore its innards are taking stolen goods, and therefore that can't go up onto the altar.
But you have to slaughter them, not with your hand.
Okay, so a sacrificial bird in the Beit HaMikdash, there it was not slaughtered. There was a special process called malika with the thumbnail of the Kohen,
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right? But for anything outside of sacrificial usage, a bird could only be eaten if it was properly slaughtered.
Okay,
Right?
that's good.
Like an animal needs to be properly slaughtered, bird needs to be properly slaughtered. Fish does not. Bird, animals, there is a difference, a technical difference, that there are the two simanim, there are the two pipes. There's the trachea and the esophagus, right? And by the shechit of an animal, both of those need to be cut. By a bird, one is sufficient. But I don't know if any of you guys are going to do any building or any shechita, so I wouldn't worry about that too much.
So the hunting that took place, like Esau, was considered like hunting.
Correct.
So that kind of hunting was permitted because it was literally for getting food. It was right.
Correct. But that's before the Torah was given, and therefore there was right, or you'd have to, was Yitzchak eating hunted food that wasn't properly shechted, or was there a means of hunting an animal and trapping it and then shechting it? Is that what Esav did for Yitzchak? Presumably, we would say it's probably what was on the menu for Yitzchak when he asked Esav to bring him food. Yeah. Okay. Trapping animals not permitted on Shabbos. This applies to animals which are commonly trapped, birds, wild animals, as well as to those which are not, such as insects. Okay? Think succus, think bees, hornets, right? Or mosquitoes. So as much as we want to trap them or kill them, right? A person has allergic reactions. So in those situations, then one would be able to trap it, but not to kill it. You have, a bunch of swarms of yellow jacks in your sukkah. You could cover them with a cup, right? And then, riding a horse and an animal is not permitted. Likewise, one may not ride in a wagon pulled by an animal. Okay, lastly, the prohibition to work one's animal, 282. Is one may not lead or prod an animal, either the animal is not his own, by hand or stick, or by making a noise which will result in the animal doing one of the malachot. Okay? Walking your dog on Shabbos, right? That would be allowed. Okay? Here we're talking about doing work. By having the animal do its work on Shabbos, right? That is going to be problematic. Owner of an animal must ensure this animal does not perform preventive work. Okay, that's really not so much to in our world. We don't have too many working animals at our employ.
But would it picking up after
Just one
your-
second. Hello, Bitsabe. How are you? Have we met, Bitsabe?
I think I was in your class on Sunday. Was it Sunday? Last week, maybe. We met over Zoom. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. All right, good. Welcome. Okay, good night, Gabriella and
you.
Esty. And everybody over here. It's been an experience.
So wait, what if you pick up after your dog and accidentally pull the grass? Because dogs go on the grass.
Yeah. So you would try to do it in a careful manner, right? In which case, if it does happen, it's a davar she'ena mitkavein. That was not your intent.
Okay.
It's not a psik reisha. It's not that by picking up the dog stuff, you inevitably are going to be pulling out grass. So then it'd be like walking on grass. It could be walking on grass that you end up pulling out some grass, right? That it's not inevitable. That's not my intent. That's not going to be a problem. All right? Very good. Okay. Good night. Good night.
Question.
Yes.
Once I